right，只是是
Okay.
Hi, Facebook. Okay. Thanks for joining us. This is The Truth Be Told with myself, Tbeyb.
I'm Nelson L. You know that.
Make sure you guys tap in with us. Send us an email, KUAW985@gmail.com. Give us a call, 816-599-6893. You can also log on to the website and listen via the web, KUAW.org. Or
That's
if
right.
you're watching us via Facebook, or if you'd like to see us live, tap into our Facebook, KUAW FM 985. And you can watch us live, and we're here for your comments and everything. Hey,
How you feeling, Tbeyb?
I'm okay.
You know,
Blessed.
you know, people been hitting me in the streets like, "What's up with Tbeyb?" So I know they're happy to see your face and hear your voice online. Thank you for everybody that's been, showing love, because a lot of people have been asking me about you and everything. So I've been telling them everything peaceful. So you could tell them for yourself if anybody's concerned. But I'm happy to see you here.
So real fast, I want to jump into.
Let's
I
go.
need to recant something
what?
I said last week.
That was probably when I was running a little behind schedule. I missed it.
Yeah, because we were talking about LeBron James, me and Crovell.
Right,
we were
right.
talking about LeBron James in the school, and we were talking about Jordan. And I made the statement that Jordan invests in prisons,
Yeah.
and that's not true.
Well, I have been. It's been out a long time that he's put money into private prisons, but I've been seeing a lot of stuff on social media here lately. It's almost like trying to clean his reputation up a little bit.
Yeah.
But so I think we need to go in. I'm not going to try to jump on one side or the other of that. But I know personally for a long time I really wasn't into buying Jordans, because I was under the impression that he invested like stock market money in
Prison.
what they call CCA, and that means Corrections Corporation of America.
Yeah.
So,
but it's not him. It's a European
named Michael Jordan. I know.
With
Yeah,
the
I'm up on it.
And
But this is
so, yeah.
Let me say this though, because I want to defend the old Jew. The old Jew is saying, yeah, I understand, but this is what my thing about Michael Jordan, bro. You done made so much money off of us in the community, but Chicago is the I don't want to say it's the grimiest city out here, but it's almost like a war zone in Chicago, and a place that you called home for so many years. It did so much for your career that made you a household name globally. It just seems like he could be more active in the Chicago community, and they know a lot of that killing is going on behind Jordan tennis shoes, or you wearing this particular Jordan outfit or what have you, and brothers can't afford that. And so, a lot of things happening as a result of that. So that's just another thought on it. Y'all tap in and give us your opinion. Yeah. I know we're waiting on a few people to get logged in right now. We got a good show today. Surprise guest for y'all. It's not really a surprise. I've been pumping it today. But, man, we're just trying to tap in. There's a lot of stuff going on in Kansas City.
Forrest said happy vote day. Yeah. Happy vote day. I got my sticker.
I was going to say, I've seen that sticker. Congratulations.
I just came from voting.
Mr. Walker got his sticker on. I seen he got his sticker.
Sticker.
So, and I know y'all saying, why don't I have mine? Because I live in Kansas. So that's why. But still, make sure you guys get out there, man. And if nothing else, be part of the process.
Still got an hour. Polls close at 7. So if you haven't had a chance to get out there and vote, just make sure you take the time to just let your voice be heard, or at least have
That's right.
Have your hand in the conversation, at least.
At least make sure that your voice is heard somewhat, and it's a big deal right now, because I think that the next generation, I can kind of see them coming into understanding on how the political process works, and it's a lot of people that are on both sides of it. But I'm just happy that it's our time right now. Like I seen, make sure I say her first name right, Tbeyb Dupree, Armida Dupree. I seen her commercial on TV. I almost put it on my Instagram. I was excited. I seen Brandon standing in the background. The state rep, Brandon Ellington, was in the commercial. And so it's like I was happy to see that. And I know that that's us moving forward. So make sure you support us so we can make a change in the commercial. I mean, in the community. I'm looking at bro in here calling me right now like you don't know better.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people say they don't vote because, it doesn't go against anything. But, your voice is really, really heard in local elections. Like, that's where you really have a stake in. A lot of times when people say that comment, they more so talking about the presidential election. Local elections is where you really can get in and make sure that, the people that you want representing you are who is representing you.
Exactly.
So we want to make sure that goes through today. So, yeah, shout out to Brandon and Armida and all the other people that's on
everybody
vote
else
for
this
the people
pushing.
ballot. Unfortunately, I don't live in this district.
Hello.
I don't live in this district, so I didn't get the chance. I wish I did. I wish I would have known that. I would have used a different address.
Well, my guy Fee is out there, Jeff Francis. So we got a lot of people that are in the district, and I know he has that district that includes 18th and Vine. There was a shooting out there on 18th and Vine, so I don't, I think I'd be remiss to have this platform and not talk about some of the violence that's been going on here lately. But we gotta make an impression on this younger generation, and getting out there and supporting people that are in a position to affect policy is one way that we got to do it.
It has been a lot of violence.
A lot of violence in the town
lately. I don't know what's going on with y'all people.
Well, that's the reason why I wanted to have the brother KUAW on, because there's obviously a disconnect. I just want to say this personally. This is Nelson Hill. This ain't more science. This is not truth be told. This is, if you out here shooting and killing and you on that tip, you got low self-esteem, bruh. You don't think a lot about yourself. You don't care about your life. You got these problems. I understand that. But we gotta get to the crux of why you feeling like that. And if it's because you don't feel like you have power, you don't feel like you have a voice or whatever it is, that can be corrected. But we just got a lot of lawlessness happening, and it has to do with self-esteem, in my opinion. Like, if you got high self-esteem about yourself, you think a lot about who you are as a person, then there's just certain things that you're not going to do. You know what I'm saying, Tbeyb?
Yeah, if you carry yourself a certain way. Because that sounds like, I just wanted to really get you guys' opinions on what do you think is causing all this here lately? Like,
right, that's what I'm really poking at right now.
Yeah, because it is a lot going on. I know this lady at work was saying that they need more jobs. I seen somebody said they need to legalize marijuana.
It's a lot of people that can, say, well, it's an identity crisis going on. But at the end of the day, to me, it's like low self-esteem, right? So, like, if you're a female and you say, I'm from a certain type of family, I'm coming from a certain kind of background, I'm used to a certain kind of income, then you carry yourself a certain way. You're not going to accept a certain kind of behavior or treatment. But if you don't have any understanding, or you thinking you coming from less than, or you ain't nothing, or don't have nothing, or never be nothing, then you accept any kind of treatment. You know what I'm saying? There's no line there. There's no character. There's no morals involved. And so to me, it's just like this mentality that a lot of these people have out here. It's like you think it makes you look hard, but it's really a reflection on how lacking you are. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? A reflection on how you see yourself.
I think it's a lack of knowledge too. Like, if you realize that what you put out comes back to you 10 times fold, then it's certain things that you would not do.
Absolutely.
And today's generations or younger generations, they have no idea of that concept. It seems like they don't really care about the things that they're doing, or how the things that they're doing affect other people, or anything like that around them. It's like we live in a selfish time right now. But even being selfish, if you knew that what you're doing is going to come back to you, then you wouldn't do it. Yeah, you would act a little bit different.
So there's a disconnect there. It's like, if you knew, like you said, what you're doing is going to hurt you, like, then you wouldn't do it. Then that must mean we don't know that this is hurting us, or we're not understanding that whatever you're doing to someone else, you're really doing it to yourself.
Yeah,
you feel me? It's almost like if you litter. We had a conversation one time. You like, I don't like people throwing stuff out the window, litter bugs, what have you. Well, it's like, really, what are you doing? You're trashing your community. You're making the place that you live in every day or whatever, a worse place. You're not seeing how it's affecting you.
You're not being a valuable member to society.
And so we gotta instill some of that. And so I think right now too, what we're seeing too is we're seeing the bottoming out of society. And you know, if you look back historically throughout different eras of time, whenever there was about to be a shift in paradigm, you would always see lawlessness and unruliness. It's almost like the people went wild at the last minute because they know that they know that a shift is coming. And so I think this may be telltale signs of a shift of consciousness right now. And that's what I'm hoping it is.
I would hope so, because I'm like, dang, maybe they need to have a different class in school. They might need to start teaching a class on universal laws or something crazy. In school. Or just because people need to, I mean, especially these young people, like y'all out here like 16, 17, 15, 16, 17 years old. Y'all out here shooting people. You getting into the system early. Like, you haven't even had a chance to live your life, and you're already labeled. You're already in the system. You're already at a disadvantage. Oh, you know what? Another thing that I seen that I want to talk about. Okay, real quick. I'm gonna get back to that.
And then I was gonna say, read Tyson's comment too when you get a chance.
We got too many sensitive people walking around with their feelings on their shoulders. I wish everyone could embrace the philosophy of Ubuntu. I am because we are. Oh, okay. I think it is. You know how we talked about on a show or two in the past how there's been a role reversal. It's like the men are acting kind of more, having a lot of more feminine qualities or sensitiveness issues, and it seems like a lot of females are more kind of aggressive these days. But is that also mixed with lack of knowledge, like you said, also mixed with self-esteem issues again? And that's just me. How do you see yourself? Like, if you're willing to go out and do this, you must look at yourself as a pretty low character. You know what I'm saying? Because these are the type of acts that you'll perpetrate. You like, this makes me hard or whatever, but really it says the opposite about how you feel about yourself. You must not see yourself getting no money. You must not see yourself living in no nice house, driving no nice cars, not wearing no nice jewelry. You don't see yourself free, obviously. You don't see yourself free. That's what I'm saying. You don't see yourself with women if you're a female or man or whatever. You just see yourself in a desperate situation that offers no future. But people are not even looking for tomorrow. Like, they don't even have no longevity in the things. And
let me give you some thumbs up on that.
They don't have no longevity in what it is that they're out here doing. They don't think about what they're going to be doing next year or in 5 years, or you know what I'm saying. They don't think about anything like that. They're thinking about today. So and so said this about me, so I'm about to go handle it, and that's it. Right. But handle it, what do you mean? Like, just because somebody said something about you, man, look, it's just so disappointing, because it's like, it gets to the point where, like, what do you do? What do you do? Like, what can we do? We can have rallies, but if the that's doing the transgressions is not attending those rallies, what is the rallies helping?
I'm with you on that. It's to me, in my opinion, is we're also seeing a reflection of our leadership, right? So now we're talking about the mayoral candidates and different things that's going on. We're voting and everything. But I think if these people that are running for office, public office, I almost look at it like this. If it's a shooting going on, shooting happened, 14 shootings that happened over a certain period of time, the mayor need to shut it down. Come on TV, listen, we're not having this. Show up in the neighborhood. Show up with the people. But this is my thing. We have funds, we have money, we have resources that are put together for educating our young people, for entertaining our young people. But what happens is this. Our young people are not going to, like you said, listen to the teacher at school. They're not going to listen to the police officer. They're not going to listen to the pastor at their church. But they do listen to music, and they listen to the people that produce that music, and they listen to certain people in the community, positive people, of course. You want somebody who's putting on a positive message out there. Why don't the city get behind those people? The people that you see setting up businesses, got their own stores, putting out positive messages, and support that, because that's who the kids listen to. So that you know who they listen to already. So why not put some energy behind them? So there's solutions out here, but it's almost, do we really want that? That's what it really comes down to, because this also, when we see it, we call it bad. It's also feeding the system, because the more crime that we have, the more police officers we can employ, the more jails we can build, the more county jails, the more prisons, the more wardens, the more COs, the more probation officers. Somebody's going to get paid off of this. So we have to realize that the powers that be they're not necessarily going to stop it because they found a way to make money off of it. So it's clear to me that it's not going to stop unless we stop it.
I mean, I just need people to take responsibility for their actions. I mean, people need to be out here taking responsibility for their kids or their children. You know, like how does your 15-year-old son even own a gun?
And you don't know about it.
Right. How does that happen? Like, how are these people even getting? And not saying that it's just being young kids, even though it's really just been a lot of young kids. I know down to 18 and
females
been getting killed.
Yeah, so it's a lot of craziness going on.
But I mean, I'm just saying the people doing the killing, like the age range of these people committing these crimes is just baffling to me, of how their parents are not aware of this type of behavior, or how you don't know that your 10-year-old son, 11, 12, 13-year-old son trying to join a gang. And
see, I think what's happening is, and I'm with you on that, I'm just throwing some stuff in the mix. What's happening in some cases is your 16-year-old son out cutting up, pulling pistols on people or what have you. You, mama or daddy, you only 27 years old yourself. So you still active as far as trying to be seen, trying to get likes, trying to buy new shoes, you're so caught up in trying to support your own image that you're not paying attention. You got a seed out here that's gone astray, but you can't correct them if you ain't correct. And so we got a lot of young minded, even if you're older in age, but you got a lot of young minded parents out here who have been disconnected from that generation that, you know, kind of gave us some of those core values that a lot of the older ones of us have. Those are values, and those are habits that have been created. Like, if you make your bed up today, it's probably because you got in the habit of doing that as a young person. You know what I'm saying? And so we don't have nobody to instill those core values and help these young people develop good habits. Yeah. So now we out here.
So Hazelin, is that how you say that?
I would say, yeah,
Hazelin. I definitely agree. So we need more spirituality in our communities. Help young people understand themselves. Accountability is the must.
That's right.
And that's true. And we kind of alluded to that earlier. You might not have been tapped in yet, but we kind of alluded to that earlier. But that's definitely true, because they don't have no sense of consequence. And they like you're not gonna get away with it. See, here's my thing. Even if you don't get caught by the law, you're not getting away with anything, because you cannot get away from God. Like, God sees all.
You can't get away from yourself.
Hide from Him.
That's right.
So you can't hide from His universal laws that He set in place. You cannot get around those type of things. But the thing about it is, they don't even know about these type of things.
Crazy.
They could go to church all day long. The church don't teach you about universal laws.
You gotta, this is the thing, and I'm gonna tell you how I really feel about it. I agree with you, Tbeyb. This is why we have to, in the understanding that we have, Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, out of your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation. So that's something that was said, right? And I look at it like this. On Sunday, I don't care what faith you are, what religion you are, where you from, what background. If you're living in the United States of America, there's generally not school on Sunday, right? As far as public school or, something like that is concerned. So what it's saying to me in essence is, you teach school. When school's not in, you need to be teaching your child. You need to be teaching your kid or your child those core values that we were kind of talking about, those principles, higher principles, and how to be moving. Because the school system is not going to teach them that, and so there has to be some other schooling, and that starts at home.
Yeah, but the parents got to know they self.
Right. That starts at home.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like you got people, you have, like you said, you got young parents out here. I want to say they 27 and they kids 16. I'm going to give them a little couple of more years. I don't know. That's a lot. But I'm still young.
Babies at 15 now.
Yeah, but that ain't 15. Well, that's like 10.
30. If you had a baby at 15, you're 30 years old when they're 15, 16. So, I just kind of was looking at it like that. But yeah, 16, 17 years old. Yeah, the baby as a teenager.
Yeah.
You could be in your 20s, late 20s when they're a teenager. And I'm just saying we got a lot of that. A lot of young parents out here.
That wouldn't add up.
If you're 16 years old,
right,
you could have a teenage child while
by the time they 13,
while you were
be
still
30.
in your 20s.
No, you're not.
Okay, I guess 15 and 30, so I have to go the other
15,
way.
yeah, you go.
You know what I'm saying?
Like,
you too young to know better. Let's just put it like that.
I'm just saying. What I'm saying is that they're young too, and they don't know because they weren't taught.
Sure.
You know, and a lot of them are trying to. A lot of people do try to reach out into things like. I don't want to beat up on the church, but I know a lot of my friends, like I'm 30, okay, and I still consider myself young. And I know a lot of women that have children, you know, they might be 10. I don't know if I know nobody older with a child older than 10. I don't know, I know somebody her daughter turned 11. But they, you know, they 30s. That's a preteen. Yeah. So a preteen, yeah. And they go to church and everything a lot, and they want to drag their children and everything to church and everything. And I feel like maybe at some point it has to be. I don't know how I want to say it because I don't want to be offensive. Right. Yeah,
but go ahead and say it. I'll clean it up because I think I feel the same way. Go ahead.
I just feel like they kind of give them an out. Like if you commit this sin, just repent and Jesus will forgive you.
Right. Just ask for forgiveness.
Just ask for forgiveness and you'll get it. Or just get baptized. And everything that you did in your later years it'll be forgiven. Away.
Not realizing that baptism is a symbolic ritual of what you're supposed to be doing, which is washing away the sin that you done accumulated around your heart. But they don't know that, you know.
But my thing of it is, if I was to hear that as a young child, I feel like that means I could do whatever I want to do, and by the time I'm ready to get my life together, I can repent and I'm gonna be good, and I'm gonna get into quote unquote heaven.
And the only deterrent against that is, well, tomorrow ain't promised. And so you gonna gamble like most people do. Well, I'll do it tomorrow, whatever, because you think you have an out. But if you knew there was something that you couldn't do tomorrow, then you would do it today. But because it gives you that out. This is my take on Christianity. And you know, my mother's married to a Christian pastor, a minister, and so I'm tied into it. So I'm not trying to knock it. But what I will say is this: in my experience, I grew up in the church, and at early on, my experience was fire and brimstone. So they would preach a message of don't, like, say you're a girl, they would be like, don't kiss a boy, you're gonna go to hell, or don't do this, you're gonna go, the consequence would be hell. And so they scared a lot of people. When I talk about that, I'm talking about that core values, right? So they was trying to instill some values and some higher principles, but it was a fear factor that was placed behind it. Well, then once the fear factor wore off and everybody's like, well, I ain't scared of that no more, because Tamika is pregnant at 16, you know, so obviously she wasn't scared enough not to kiss a boy. Then they went into this prosperity. So it went from it polarized itself. It went from you're going to go to hell to, well, God wants you to have a Bentley and a new airplane, and he wants you to be rich, and he wants you to have jewelry. Why wouldn't he? God's a king. You're the son of a king. You're supposed to be rich. So then it started trying to bribe people by saying, if you follow into this faith, then you can be rich because God wants you to be rich. You just have to say that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and he died for your sins, rose again on Sunday, fall in line with the faith, and then you can be rich. So then it started offering all these promises of prosperity. And what's happened is it's lost its effect now because we have something called the internet. We have places where we can go and research certain things and find out certain information. So what I would say is the church is going to have to reinvent itself if it wants to be able to captivate the minds of these young people. Because the way it was set up before, it was like a dogma indoctrination type situation to where that's not flying no more. And so not only churches, but mosques and temples and other places of religion are losing membership every day.
Yeah. I mean, that's because people losing religion, period. I don't even want to misquote that. I want to say it was J. Cole, but I don't know if it was J. Cole. But you know, it says no religion is the new religion. Right? You know what I'm saying?
That wasn't Jay, but I know exactly.
I can't think of who it was off the top of my head right now. He said,
"Why you got a cross? You don't believe in Jesus."
Okay, well I know who said that, but that ain't the same person. Okay. But yeah, I know that one.
Said no religion.
Yeah, you don't even believe it. Yeah, yes. I'm just saying, like, it's things like that. Like, people are getting away from that all the time, so we have to find new ways to get to reach these young children. I know I started to my cousin, she's a teacher at Central, and she invited me up there to come talk, and I was like, yeah, I'll come up there and talk to them, you know, like, just because these people, they need someone to look up to, they need someone to talk to them and talk to them. That's why I get into the nonprofits and the mentor shirt. That's why I am my brother's keeper, you know, love, move, like all these different organizations out there that's trying to cater to the young people and actually get out and mentor these young people, because that's what they need. They need mentors.
That's exactly, and that's a good segment to go into kind of where we're headed next. It does take a village, and partially why we have to get out there and really do it now, Tbeyb, is because a lot of the parents don't know. Like we were just talking about, how can you teach your child something you don't know? And so it's incumbent upon us to put the information out there now so they can get a hold of it, because young people listen to you. Even though you young and you 30, it's still a lot of young women, young girls, teenagers, what have you, that look up to you and can learn from your experience in life. You feel me? You done been through a lot in your 30 years, and a lot of times people won't even identify with you unless you done been through some things. It's almost like an alcoholic, a recovered alcoholic is really the only one that can teach an AA meeting, because the people that are trying to get over that illness is like, I'm not listening to you unless you've been through this.
Yeah. And my thing of it is, and again, with the it takes a village thing, the young people, they're getting out of the sense of the village, because you hear people, don't talk to my child like that, don't touch my child, don't tell my child. Right. You know, I'm going to tell your child. If you ain't telling your child, somebody needs to tell your child. I might need to tell you.
Yeah, like, do you know your child is over there around the corner cutting up? Like, you need to know this.
Right. Like, you know, they were saying, like, we had communities and blocks. Like, nine times out of 10, you probably don't even know who your neighbors are these days. Like, back in the day, everybody on the block knew each other. The lady down the street, she knew your mama, your grandma, everybody. And if she seen you cutting up down the street, she was going to tell your mama, and she was going to correct you and tell your mama for your mama to correct you.
And you
but
might
they
have got,
get out of that these days.
And if your mama wasn't home, your auntie got a hold of you, she might correct you before your mama
your
got
auntie. And I remember one time, like, me and I had to really talk one time to my sister, because, like, you know, she was telling me, like, some things I was saying to her children, like, these are my niece and nephew. And I told her, we can fight, because at the end of the day, if they doing something wrong, I'm gonna correct them. You get mad, you get mad. Like, it is what it is. But if your child is in my house, I'm gonna tell y'all right now, for anybody out there that can see me, if your child is at my house or is in my vicinity, I do not care. If they cutting up, I'm gonna correct them. And if you got a problem, we can all have a problem, but they gonna get corrected.
Let's put it this way: if your child is around me and they out running wild, it's really my duty to correct them, because I look at it like this: either I can say something or the police officer can say something. And police officers generally speak with bullets and tasers and nightsticks and beating up people and doing things. That might be our special guest. I hope it is.
Exactly.
So we're talking about mentors. We're talking about what the young life need. This might be it right here, family.
But I'm just saying, like, you and if it's some parents out there listening, then I want y'all to get out of that too, and embrace, you know, and embrace what, you know, someone else might have to offer your child.
Right. Well, we talked about it, and I think he's on the line now. So we were talking about being able to, how do we affect the young life when the parents don't know, right?
Right.
So we have to be able to expose them to information and people and master teachers and those that do know. So the ones that don't know can get the information. So it's my pleasure, it's my honor, you know, to be able to have a conversation, and, if you will, a partial interview, or however this rolls out, with Dr. KUAW. And
do y'all know
Doctor,
who that is?
You on the line, Doc?
Yes, my brother. Can't hear you too well, but I'm on the line.
Okay, we're going to try to get the technical part right, and I'm just going to be doing a little bit of an intro. I'm with my co-host, Tbeyb, Bay as in B-E-Y, baby.
All right.
And we basically are trying to get to the crux of it. In Kansas City, Doc, it's been a lot of killing going on over the last just week or two. Been murder after murder after murder.
We have 15 shootings in 33 hours.
So what it is the information. It's almost like if you're watering a plant from the top. This water's not getting down to the soil, and that's what I call the young life. They're on the soil. And so we've got a program here that I know that they listen to, And Kansas City is tapped in. You and I had a conversation one time before I give all your accolades. And thank you for taking my phone calls, being a big brother, a mentor, just being an example on how a young Asiatic should live their life. So to you, I say hotep to that, brother. Hotep, hotep, hotep.
Hotep.
So do you want to tell the people a little bit about yourself before we get into this? Can you hear me?
Dr. Kaba, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I didn't hear sister.
The sister said, just before we get into it, can you please give the listening audience just a brief background about yourself, your education, where you come from, your connection to us as a people? My
main piece is as educator. That's my main career. That's what I do, educating our young people. I'm here in New York. I was an educator in South Central Bronx for 31 years. And my teaching career has spanned every grade from pre-K straight through college, including PhD candidates.
Right.
So I've had a chance to understand and see from an educational perspective where students are in all of the subject areas. And at the same time, I developed curriculum and I developed staff and informed communities. I did community development as it relates to the role that culture plays in the intellectual development of human beings, specifically African and dynamically African American. So my background is education, and I credit much of my achievements as a young brother being exposed to our great scholar, ancestor, and great historian, Dr. John Henrik Clark,
Absolutely.
who I consider to be my teacher.
Absolutely.
And because of the impact that he had on my life from when I was a young brother, I dedicated my life to do for others as he had done for me. And what he did was he gave me a sense of self-concept. So when you talk about watering a plant, but unfortunately you only get the top, that's a great analogy. I like that analogy because you can't get down to the root.
That's right.
My analogy is somewhat similar in metaphor style. I say, you know, to teach this information to adults or to college students and not to younger children is equivalent to giving a marathon runner water at the 24th mile.
Right.
Where they needed that water much earlier.
Yes.
So we have to get to our young people to help them understand who they are and what their potential is.
Absolutely.
And all the things that have happened before them that have brought them to this point in their life, because they carry the DNA of all of their ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Billions of people going back in time to the very origins of the human family and even before that. And our young people are not exposed to this information.
At all.
So therefore, if you don't know better, how can you do
better? Right.
And so I've dedicated my life to dropping the information, and I ask people. In fact, I encourage them. Well, no, I insist. Don't believe a word I say. Because my job is not to make you believe me. My job is to make you think. To get you to understand that this situation that we find ourselves in is dynamically planned in order for you not to achieve your greatest good, because they know that if you knew who you were, if you understood your greatness and your potential, you would threaten the very existence of white supremacy, of which I call white fragility.
That's right. That's absolutely right. You know, one thing that I often say, because obviously I'm Nelson Ill, so you know I'm a Moorish American. I deal with Hebrew Israelite brothers. I deal with brothers that are into ancient Kemet. And we've got these all these different kind of groups, you know, that are out here. We all love one another, so it ain't nothing like that. But it's not about, in my mind, and I want you to kind of expound on this because I heard you kind of touch on it one time. It's not about Africa. It's not about like the Moors necessarily. That's good to know, but it's about knowing what they knew. If we knew what they knew, see, there's certain information on how they lived their lives, the reasons why they did certain things. We trying to get contacted or get connected back to the information that they knew. Because it's almost like, you know, when you really step back and we look at life, it's really, if whatever I'm going to do as far as a decision, it can either benefit me or it can be not beneficial to me. Why are we making the decision to do the things that are not beneficial to us? Is because I feel, you know, there's a disconnection with that information that we have not been privy to. So there's a way of life that we got disconnected from. So we got to get that back.
And, you know, the point that you make is something that I've really looked at. And as an educator, this is something that I've looked at and tried to stress with our people. To understand, like, for instance, with Imhotep, the great scholar.
Right.
The great builder of the first stone step pyramid. To simply know Imhotep is of no regard to me.
Right.
It has its place to know the greatness that he did, but if you can't replicate what Imhotep did, then that's dead history.
That's right.
So what becomes important to me is the acquisition of wisdom and knowledge. To understand, you see, when our children are in school, as an educator that I have been over the years, and in teaching kindergarten children, teaching language arts and science and math to the children who are in kindergarten or who are in the first grade, one of the things that I see is that in the beginning, particularly in language arts, we're teaching our children to learn how to read. So they have these little cutesy carnivals and circus and clowns and balloons and animals that teach them the development of reading, decoding symbols. But once they get into the third grade, fourth grade, they begin no longer learning how to read, but they're reading to learn. When that happens, that is when the child is introduced to the George Washington and to the Thomas Jefferson and to all the great things that Europeans did.
Right. I like that, Doc.
And so at that point, Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu, in his book, The Conspiracy, he talks about a fourth grade syndrome. And because I've taught both third and fourth grade students, and sometimes I've had the same students in the fourth grade that I had in the third grade.
Right.
So I've been able to see them in consecutive years. And one of the things I've come to realize is that the fourth grader is not like the third grader. It's a different person altogether.
Huh.
And that is because in the fourth grade, they have developmentally come to a certain level in terms of their intellect. And that they are literally turned off from education because they don't see themselves.
Exactly. Exactly.
All they see is other people succeeding. So they're never introduced to their own history and culture and the role that Africans have played.
Right.
In the development of the periodic table of elements, in the development of physics, astronomy, cosmology, language, alphabet, algebra, geometry.
Not only do they not see themselves, there's not a lot of male teachers, Asiatic teachers. So not only are they not getting the information that they need as far as seeing themselves in greatness, they're not being taught by a teacher that they can emulate either. You know, their teacher is generally a European female.
Absolutely. And there have been studies that demonstrate what happens when you have a man of African descent,
right,
or a woman of African descent, but particularly a man of African descent. I am an example. I could write a book on what my 4- and 5-year-olds in my kindergarten class have said to me.
Right.
They say, "You look like my daddy. I wish you were my daddy.
Right.
Can I call you daddy?"
That's right.
To which my answer was, "I am your daddy."
We just talked about that.
I didn't bring you in here
online.
biologically, but if you're in my presence, it is an African tradition that I am your father.
That's
I
right.
am your Baba.
Baba.
And so, therefore, the success I've had with my students, both male and female,
right,
I come to the community with success stories.
Right.
I don't come with theoretical ideas as to what I read or what I heard. I'm telling you what I experienced.
That's right.
I know, and I'm on a crusade for young men in particular, but for we as a people to educate our children. Because if we as men were in front of that classroom, our children wouldn't have to be medicated.
That's right.
Our children wouldn't be in special education.
That's right.
Because in our classrooms with black males, we are their special education.
That's right.
We are
that.
what they need.
We are that. And you
They
know,
don't need to be drugged.
that's right.
We know what they need because we were once them.
You know, my dad is an
And-
educator.
And people say to me, like, for instance, are you saying that white people or white teachers should not teach or cannot teach African children? No, that's not what I'm saying.
Mhm.
I'm saying that we should be teaching our children.
That's
It's
right.
not about you. It's about us. We as a people need to start to educate our own children and take the responsibility for our future in our hands.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, at that age, when you're talking about the 3rd grade and the 4th grade, it's amazing when you see that young life. They will run through a brick wall for you. They just want to please. They want to show you that they can do it. So if you can get at them at that age with the right example, like be that Baba, that child is going to overperform, because that's what brings us. We want to run through that brick wall to show our dad that we are capable, you know, that we're getting taller, that we're getting stronger. Hey, look at me, Dad. So we perform like that. One thing I want to get into, because we don't have a lot of time, is I want you to speak just a little bit. The conversation that's out here on the online now is about this reverse slave trade. And so we're not saying that it didn't exist. You and I had a conversation online, and what we're saying is that we were over here well before Christopher Columbus. And so there's a way that both of these dynamics could work, because you got this one thing saying, well, you know, we came over here on slave ships, and this is what, you know, the biblical kind of story is alluding to. And then you got another line of thinking that says we were already here prior to, and the slave trade went where we were shipped out of America. And so I just kind of want you to expound on that a little bit and give us your understanding of early America. If you want to start in 1492, you can. If you want to start in 711 when the Moors ruled Spain, you can do that too.
Well, I'd like to start at 120,000 years before the Christian era.
I love it.
Okay, that's where I want to start. I want to then move to the fact that in San Diego, California, they found bones of a female
Right.
that are authentically African,
Hmm.
and they date to be 90,000 years old.
That's right.
It's important that we understand the great works of Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans.
Right.
We need to look to the works of our people who have done research in this area, like Dr. Clyde Winters.
Right.
And so it becomes more important not just to think in terms of the subject areas. It's very important to understand the fact that there is evidence as it relates to bones, the skeletal remains. There's evidence in terms of language development. There's evidence as it relates to different types of botanical and plants and different types of structures that exist
That's right.
that demonstrate the presence of Africans, the first people that peopled the planet, not just America,
Hmm.
the planet. For millions of years, the only people on the planet were people that we today know as Africans.
Right.
Melanated, curly hair, wide nose, thick lip, human beings.
Correct.
That is what evidence shows. See, I'm not into truth, and I'm not into fact, because truth and fact can change.
Okay.
The truth is, yesterday, it was a beautiful day in New York.
Uh-huh.
That's a fact. But today, a thunderstorm just came through, and it wasn't a beautiful day. That's the truth, and that's also a fact. I don't go by truth and fact. I go by evidence, because evidence never changes.
That's right.
And so what becomes important as we go into this to look at the presence of African people?
Hmm.
Thus far, we find that there were 5 migrations to this part of the world.
Right.
The first migration, about 120,000, 130,000 years ago, was the Paleo-Americans. That migration, pure African.
Pure.
Nothing but African.
That's right.
The second migration is a group of people we call the Clovis Folsom, African. The third, we call the Algonquin. That's also African.
Okay.
But the fourth and fifth migration are Africans that had gone through the Ice Age and had morphologically and physiologically changed their structure.
Mm-hmm.
And so they look more like what we today would call an Asian.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth migration were the peoples that we call the Inuit,
Mm-hmm.
who are derogatorily called the Eskimo.
Okay.
The fifth migration, which is pretty much the people we perceive today to be the Native American, came during the Mongol invasions a couple thousand years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They were escaping attacks by the Mongols.
Mm-hmm.
They were the ones that came across the Bering Strait. The first people that came to this country did not come across the Bering Strait. They came directly from Africa.
Right.
They got on those belts that lead the west coast of Africa and came to America.
Exactly.
So when we're talking about African American history, that's a whole new subject. But you see, as a brother by the name of Gary Holland in Indianapolis always says, where someone tells a perfect lie, the truth is unbelievable.
I
So
like
when I'm
that.
dropping this knowledge on our people, they're looking at me like I'm crazy because
That's right.
they're so used to this 1492.
Right.
They're so used to the
Yesterday.
people that we today call the Cherokee and the Apache.
Yesterday.
Those are not the original people.
Exactly.
They are not the Native Americans.
Exactly.
They migrated a couple thousand years ago to this continent. The original people, the real indigenous Americans, were Africans. And so let me just say this about them. There are some of us, many of us, of African American descent, whose Africanness did not only come post 1492. There are some of us are Africans by way of our ancient ancestors who were here thousands of years ago.
That's right. That's
That
right.
DNA is in our blood.
That's right. You know, I often have conversations with people. There's a pyramid in St. Louis, East St. Louis, so that'd be in St. Louis, Illinois. A mound pyramid over 500 feet tall. When, like you said, the artifacts that were found in California, when you look at the different things that are found all through North America, South America, Central America, the things that were found in the Grand Canyon, I mean, it's really just undeniable to say that we hadn't been here trading, dealing, amalgamating, falling in love, having families, doing all that stuff way before just a few hundred years ago. And so to me, it's almost like you said, when that lie is so great, it makes the truth feel or seem unbelievable. It's unbelievable to me to think that we've been on this planet for all these thousands of years, and you for real think that Asiatic people just now bumped into North America thanks to the Caucasian who introduced us to it. I mean, that doesn't even sound like it makes sense, but that's what they've been teaching us in school. So now all this information is coming out now, and you know, I just think that it's now going to become more relevant because we're getting ready to start talking about birthright. We're getting ready to talk about some certain things that indigenous people have access to, but again, we don't know about it. So I think it was in 2012 or 2010 when at that time President Barack Obama signed an Indigenous Peoples Act. But if you don't know what an indigenous person is, you might miss out on that. So, you know, I think this all kind of pertains to that, and it's coming out, and I'm happy about that. Tbeyb, I know I've dominated the conversation. You have to have a question for the doctor.
No, I'm just saying because we're using the word African and we're using the term African American, but was it really Africa? Like, was it Africa way back then? Like, I thought Africa came later and on.
Well, the reason why I use the word African is because of the nature of talking to our people who have created an image of what I mean when I say African.
Okay.
And if I used another term, because there are so many different things that we call ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
It is my belief that there was no term for the continent of Africa. I believe the way in which the peoples that were on the original continent of the world where humanity came from, they were more concerned about nations.
Mm-hmm.
Nations that were developed as it related to geographic boundaries. They did not refer to continents. They referred to their nation.
Right.
Because of the psychological dimension of their intellect. It is only lately that we have become continental. And that is because the first thing that peoples of the northern climate did, people that we today call Eurasians,
start putting borders
is
up.
when they came in and conquered land, they put up fences and boundaries because they were stealing things.
Right.
And in stealing land, they wanted to ensure that the other people would know, don't steal this land. This is mine. So they created boundaries. And from boundaries came countries, and from countries came continents. But continents don't exist. They're illusions. They're just words.
And
However,
they change, yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
even though they could be illusions, if you believe them, they become a reality.
That's right.
So I refer to Africa because everybody know what Africa is. If I use and because I'm talking to the great masses of our people, if I were to use other terms, only certain people would understand what I'm saying. And because I have to get to the masses of our people, I use the language that they'll understand because I believe that we must go to where our people are to help them understand where I'd like them to get. So I use the terms that they will understand, and they understand Africa. It's been indoctrinated enough to know
what it
but
is.
Africa as a word is an illusion.
And do we understand
All
that?
continents are an illusion.
Right, I was going to say
Continents
Europe.
don't exist. At one time, there was only one continent.
I was going to say Europe was Africa.
On our earth.
Yeah, all kinds of different places. They're called the Middle East now or whatever. That was Africa, so it changes. We're coming to the end of the program. What I wanted to do, Doc, I want you to talk about your book, talk about the things that you've got coming up, talk about the website and where people can get in contact with your information. And just what you got going on right now, and give us a little heads up on Hidden Colors 5.
I just came back from Los Angeles filming Hidden Colors 5. The main theme on this one is African warfare.
Okay.
And if you go to Tariq Nasheed's Instagram, you'll be able to see the time that we spent. Our good brother Riza Islam was there, and the person interviewed just before me was Dane Dash.
Okay.
The music manager and producer. So that's coming. Now in October there's a documentary I was in. It's called Race War.
Race War.
And you can go to YouTube and Google Race War and get a sense of the trailer and what that's going to be about.
Okay, definitely.
I am in the process of developing a book titled Spirituality Before Religion.
Love it.
And basically it analyzes some of the ancient African texts that we find on the walls and on the papyri paper that was written by our ancestors. And it describes the different scriptures that all religions have adopted in their religion. But I just wanted to give a sense of the spirit,
Right.
the spiritualness. I wanted to define what is spirituality, what is spirit, what is religion,
Right.
what is ritual,
That's right.
what is ceremony. We use these words, but sometimes from an African perspective, we don't know what that means. So I wanted to just have a discussion. So you can go to my website, and I've got a free 5-day e-course that over 5 days my classes will come down to you that outlines this book that I'm writing right now. This is my second book that's coming out. You can go to www.KABAKAMENE.com, www.KABAKAMENE.com, and you can put your email in, and over 5 days, this 5-day e-course will come to you, along with my 44-page study guide, which is the culmination of my work in outline form.
Spell that out one more
So
time.
you can go to www.KABA, KAMENE.com, and you can download that. And these are the things that I'm working on. I've got my first book out on the original architect of the African Studies program, on a brother by the name of Dr. William Leo Hansberry out of Howard University. All of the Black Studies program, the African Studies program, all emanate out of this great scholar's work, William Leo Hansberry. But when you go to my website, not only do you get my free e-course and my study guide, but also different materials that I have up that you can access that can bring information to you as it relates to educating our youth and our community and our parents and the work that we have to do moving forward into the future.
Absolutely.
In order to do what we have to do.
Absolutely. Just not enough time to get into it. You know, spirituality over religion, I think it's going to get that way. It's going back to that. We're going to lose all these titles, and we're going to get back to the essence. Thank you so much for tapping in with us today on Truth Be Told.
The time to talk to us and our listeners.
Hotep, brother. The sister Tbeyb is going to bless us with the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation, and then we out. So thank you. Hotep, Islam. Just want to say shout out to everybody out there that tapped in, and thank you again for tapping in, brother.
Hotep, Dua family. That means thank you in the Kemetic language. And I appreciate you, my brother Nelson L., and to my sister Tbeyb. And I wish you all the very best. I look forward to the future. And even though time is short, it gives us all the more reason to do this again.
Yes, very soon.
Hotep.
Very soon. Okay. Do I got some? Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care. The breast of one mother have given thee suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in our Father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bonded you to love and unity. Prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother's in adversity, assist him. If thy sister's in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy Father contribute to the support of his whole race. In his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Peace.
All right.
They said we need a 2-hour show.
Who said that?
Force.
Oh, man. That's what's happening. Ain't nobody dropping that type of action.
Bye, y'all.
Peace and love, y'all. Appreciate y'all tapping in. Make sure y'all share it. Make sure that y'all pump this. This dude is, one of the great masterminds of our time right now.
Well, I love him on Hidden Colors.